Welcome to Good Talk English Podcast.
Imagine for a second that you are running a marathon. I mean, you are giving it absolutely everything you have in the tank.
Right, just pushing to the absolute limit.
Exactly. You are sweating, your muscles are burning, and you are just pushing through that kind of exhaustion that, settles really deep in your bones. But here is the catch.
Okay, what is the catch?
You actually don't know who built the track and the finish line. It's tied to the motor of a moving car.
Oh, wow. That is a suffocating image.
Right, because every single time you feel like you are finally getting close, it just accelerates and pulls a little further away.
Yeah, and yet if you pause and really look at the mechanics of modern life, that is exactly the baseline state for so many of us. I mean, we are locked in this perpetual cycle of striving.
Yeah.
Where the only reward for finishing your work or, reaching a milestone is just being handed more work and higher expectation.
You wake up, you look at your feeds, you see everyone else seemingly sprinting ahead with perfect form, and you just instinctively start running again.
Exactly. You don't even question it.
You don't. But what if the only way to actually win that race is to just step off the track entirely?
That is the big question.
It really is. So today we are taking a deep dive into an incredibly profound set of ideas. We are looking at a translated transcript from an Arabic YouTube channel called Hadith al-Ruh.
Which translates to talk of the soul, right?
Yeah, Talk of the Soul.
I
And our mission for this deep dive today, which we are calling The Peace You've Been Searching For Is Already Within Reach, is to really dismantle this whole hustle culture thing.
And it is not your typical self-help manifesto either.
No, not at all.
It's not about optimizing your morning routine so you can crush your competitors or, squeeze an extra 10% of productivity out of your day.
Right, thankfully. I think we have enough of those.
Yeah, we really do. This is a highly reflective breakdown of how this creator completely overhauled their mental health and found a genuine, sustainable sense of inner peace.
And the fascinating part is the methodology, because they didn't achieve this by reaching some massive financial benchmark or moving to a remote cabin in the woods.
Right. They did it through very subtle, quiet shifts in how they process reality.
So to really understand how this shift happens, I feel like we have to start with the internal pressure we put on ourselves. The creator starts by describing this mindset, where life is viewed as a rigorous daily exam that demands a perfect score.
Yes, the illusion of the perfect machine.
Exactly. Like every waking moment is framed around evolving and becoming the best version of yourself, with absolutely no allowance for a pause.
It's toxic self-improvement.
And it is. I mean, I think we have started treating our minds like a massive corporate server room.
Right.
We expect 99.9% uptime.
Oh, that is a great analogy.
Right. And we are terrified that if we go offline for even an hour, if we aren't constantly processing data and upgrading our operating systems, the whole network is just going to crash.
Yeah, but equating human existence to digital infrastructure is just a fundamental category error. We are not machines that require constant optimization.
No, we aren't.
And the physiological cost of that mindset is huge because when you expect 99.9% uptime from a human nervous system, you are essentially demanding chronic hyperarousal.
Wow, hyperarousal.
Yeah. I mean, striving for a flawless existence like curating the perfect aesthetic, maintaining a hyper-organized life, calculating every word so you never appear weak, it requires a massive amount of cognitive load.
It sounds exhausting just listing it out.
It is. You are fighting your own biology. Resting isn't a glitch in the system. Pausing is a biological requirement for memory consolidation and emotional regulation.
It's almost as if perfectionism is just this anticipatory defense mechanism. Like, if I am perfect, no one can criticize me.
Exactly. But the relief the creator describes finding isn't from achieving that perfection.
Right.
It's from abandoning the project altogether. They realized the armor was heavier than the actual threat.
Oh, I love that. The armor was heavier than the threat. So the psychological pivot here is crucial, right? Because true maturity, according to the source, isn't about finally becoming this flawless, hyperproductive entity.
No, not at all. Maturity is accepting the inherent volatility of your own nature.
Right.
It is acknowledging that your capacity will fluctuate from day to day.
Yeah. And the source has this very specific piece of advice on self-compassion that acts as an intervention for that anxiety. It's the practice of literally telling yourself you are trying, and that is enough.
You are trying, and that is enough.
Just saying that out loud feels like it would actually change your breathing. Like it immediately downregulates the pressure.
It really does. But, that internal pressure doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is constantly feeding off the environment.
Oh, for sure. If trying to be a perfect machine is the engine of our anxiety, the noise of the outside world is the high-octane fuel keeping it running.
That brings us to a huge point in the material. It identifies 4 distinct categories of noise that have to be filtered if you want any semblance of inner peace.
Okay, what are they?
The noise of places, the noise of people, the noise of our own racing thoughts, and of course, the pervasive noise of digital media.
Ah, the digital media trap. I mean, we all know the baseline argument that social media is just a highlight reel, right?
Right. We all know it intellectually.
Yeah, everyone listening to this knows we are looking at curated fractions of existence. But the mechanism of how it actually destroys our peace is a lot more insidious.
Ah, so.
It creates this false sense of scarcity. It hijacks our evolutionary drive to monitor the tribe. It makes us feel like there's this universal race happening, and we are somehow falling behind in a competition that is entirely fabricated.
The cognitive trap there is attentional capture. When you constantly observe highly polished representations of other people's lives, your brain subconsciously registers that as the baseline for normal.
Oh, wow. So normal becomes perfection.
Yes. And it creates a massive gap between your unpolished everyday reality and this artificial standard. The realization highlighted in the transcript is that a polished image does not correlate to a peaceful mind.
That is such an important distinction.
It really is. Assuming someone is comfortable in their own skin just because their digital footprint looks successful is a massive logical fallacy.
I hear that. And I understand the proposed solution is usually a digital detox, right?
Usually, yeah.
But I kind of want to push back on how we actually execute that, because I have seen people, myself included, honestly, turn a digital detox into just another metric of perfectionism.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, suddenly, instead of stressing about other people's lives, I am stressing because my screen time report says I was on my phone for 2 hours instead of 1.
Yeah.
I am literally failing at relaxing.
That is a brilliant observation, and it is a very common trap. You take a tool meant for liberation, and you just turn it into another key performance indicator.
Right. Another test to pass.
But the approach outlined in Hadith al-Ruh isn't about subtraction just for the sake of a high score. It is about creating a deliberate vacuum.
A vacuum.
Yeah. A true reduction in digital noise isn't about white-knuckling your way through phone withdrawals. It is about shifting your attentional focus inward and outward into your immediate physical space.
So it is less about avoiding the screen and more about actually inhabiting the room you're sitting in.
Precisely. By reducing mediated reality, you start processing direct reality. The creator talks about simply noticing the color of the sky or the quiet of the night.
Just being present.
Yeah. Instead of the modern reflex to, pull out a camera and document a sunset, which immediately pulls you out of the experience and into the perspective of an imagined audience, you just experience the sensory input directly.
You let the awareness fill the space that the scrolling used to occupy.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you successfully step back from the digital noise. You stop tracking your detox and you just start living it. You still have to deal with the physical world.
You do.
You still have to interact with demanding people, family expectations, and professional obligations that just drain whatever energy budget you have left.
Which brings us to the profound exhaustion of people-pleasing.
Oh, man. The burnout is real there.
It is. The creator openly admits to the draining effort of trying to be universally liked, just living in terror of being misunderstood.
Yeah.
Psychologically, this is often a trauma response or a deep cognitive distortion. It requires constantly shape-shifting, monitoring other people's micro-expressions, and adjusting your personality to fit whatever mold you assume they want.
It is literally a full-time job.
A full-time job that pays absolutely nothing.
Right. I mean, over-explaining yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you is like handing the keys to your house to a total stranger, walking away, and just hoping they will redecorate nicely.
That is a perfect analogy.
It is a massive surrender of your personal autonomy to someone who doesn't even know what to do with it.
It really hits the nail on the head because you are quite literally giving away the keys to your emotional regulation. The liberation comes from the deliberate deployment of the word no.
Just saying no without guilt.
Yes, saying no to draining dynamics, fake pleasantries, and commitments that exceed your biological bandwidth.
And tying back to that point about over-explaining, the transcript notes that not everyone is going to understand you. And accepting that is a foundational pillar of peace.
It really is. It stems from this deep-seated fear that if we are misunderstood, we are somehow unsafe. We feel compelled to justify our existence or correct the record.
But silence in those moments is such an incredible buffer. You really don't have to attend every argument you are invited to.
Protecting your peace is infinitely more valuable than achieving a hollow victory in a debate. Furthermore, there is a crucial mechanism discussed here regarding projection.
Okay, projection, like not taking things personally.
Exactly. Understanding that when someone is sharp with you or misinterprets your actions, it is almost entirely a reflection of their own internal weather.
Their own stress?
Right. Their lack of sleep, their unhealed issues.
It is such a relief to realize that most of the time, you aren't even the main character in their frustration. You are just collateral damage to whatever storm they happen to be walking through.
Yes. And once you internalize that, you stop absorbing their chaos. You set the boundary, you retain your keys, and you protect that newly reclaimed mental space.
Okay, so we have this reclaimed space now. The digital noise is down. We aren't shape-shifting for strangers. What do we actually fill that space with?
Well, the philosophy points toward romanticizing the ordinary, present moment.
Which directly combats that moving finish line we talked about at the start.
It does. The psychological danger of the moving finish line is that it creates chronic dissatisfaction. It's the mindset of postponing happiness.
Like saying, I will finally allow myself to be content when I get the promotion, or when the mortgage is paid.
Or when I lose 10 pounds. Exactly. You are holding your own joy hostage against arbitrary future conditions that may never actually arrive.
It is the dopamine treadmill. We have pathologized stillness to the point where if we aren't actively achieving something or consuming high-stimulus entertainment, we just feel this baseline hum of anxiety.
We have forgotten how to just be.
Yeah, we really have.
And that anxiety is a byproduct of a hyper-capitalist framework that equates stillness with worthlessness. But the creator realized the antidote is to anchor deeply into the present through slow, deliberate action.
What does that look like practically?
It means drinking a cup of coffee and actually tasting it, rather than gulping it down while scanning emails. Walking without a destination just to process the physical sensation of moving.
Or just sitting with your family and being fully cognitively present in the room.
Yes. And there is a specific detail mentioned in the source about the power of quiet mornings, specifically the impact of simply making your bed and tidying your physical space.
It sounds almost aggressively simple, but there is real cognitive science behind why that works, isn't there?
Absolutely. Visual clutter directly correlates to increased cortisol levels, especially in the morning. When your brain scans a messy room, it registers unfinished tasks.
Which spikes your cognitive load before you've even started your day.
Exactly. By making your bed, you aren't just being tidy. You are claiming one small, definitive victory of order over chaos. The transcript phrases it beautifully, saying, a tidy space leads to a tidy internal mind. It signals safety to your nervous system.
It is about establishing baseline control. And that connects to this profound shift in how we define a good day. We often think a great day has to involve a massive spike in dopamine, right?
Like a huge win at work or a party or a major purchase.
Exactly. But there is an argument here for cultivating deep gratitude for the boring days.
Because inner peace requires redefining success. Success isn't a loud, adrenaline-fueled event. A boring day, a day where nobody is rushing to the hospital, where there is no financial crisis, where you simply eat dinner and go to sleep, is a biological luxury.
A biological luxury. I love that phrasing.
It is true. Predictability is a signal of profound safety. True gratitude involves recognizing the sheer blessing of normalcy. We rarely appreciate a quiet Tuesday until a sudden crisis shatters it.
But let's engage with that reality for a second, because crises do happen. The quiet days inevitably break. We can make our beds and sip our coffee mindfully, but life is inherently volatile.
It is.
So when the diagnosis comes, or the job is lost, or the storm actually hits, how does this framework hold up? Because this is where the ideas transition into a deeply spiritual dimension.
Yes, to navigate the unpredictable, chaotic nature of reality, the transcript draws on an Islamic spiritual framework. It introduces what the creator views as the ultimate anchor for inner peace, turning to God Allah during moments of intense fear and uncertainty.
And regardless of a listener's personal theology, the psychological and emotional mechanisms at play in this practice of surrender are incredibly powerful to examine.
They really are.
The phrasing used in the source is striking. It says dua, which is personal supplication, lightens the heart, and salah, the formal prayer, arranges the soul in a way words cannot describe.
What is being described there is a profound technology for managing the unmanageable. The core concept revolves around the deliberate release of control.
Because life is volatile.
Right. Outcomes are rarely within our grasp, and our timelines are often just ignored by reality. When you are hit with a crisis, holding on to the illusion that you can control everything will break you mentally.
There is immense emotional relief in externalizing that burden. Just the realization that you are heard, that your internal terror and confusion are known by a higher power, it changes your state.
It shifts everything.
You don't necessarily need the external circumstance to be fixed in that exact second because the internal isolation has been broken.
That is the essence of the Islamic concept of tawakkul, which translates to absolute trust and reliance on God. If we contrast tawakkul with the hustle culture anxiety we open the show with, they are diametric opposites. Well, hustle culture demands absolute white-knuckled dominion over your future. It whispers this lie that if you just grind hard enough, you can bend the universe to your exact will.
Which is the fastest route to burnout.
Yeah.
Because it makes every single failure a referendum on your effort.
Exactly. Spiritual surrender, however, requires radical acceptance of your human limitations. It is acknowledging that you are not the architect of the universe.
Right.
You do your part, you put in the diligent effort, but you completely surrender the outcome. By yielding the illusion of control, you paradoxically gain total emotional freedom.
By giving up control, you gain freedom. That is completely counterintuitive to everything we are taught in the modern world, yet it makes perfect logical sense.
It does.
Because if you aren't carrying the weight of the outcome, you are free to just engage with the process. And this idea of surrender also applies backwards, right, to the past.
Oh, it has to. You cannot be present if you are dragging the ghosts of your past decisions into the current moment. Reliving past mistakes, agonizing over what you should have said or the path you should have taken, it is a form of self-torture. Surrender isn't just about trusting the future. It is about leaving the past where it belongs.
It's forgiving yourself.
Exactly. Understanding that you made the best choices you could with the emotional tools and awareness you had at that specific time.
So, as you, the listener, step away from this deep dive and back into your reality, what is the real through line here? We have covered everything from the neurobiology of perfectionism to the spiritual mechanics of surrender, all stemming from the reflections in Hadith al-Ruh.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And I think the most compelling takeaway is that the peace you have been desperately searching for isn't hiding behind a paywall.
No, it isn't.
It doesn't require a lottery win, it doesn't require flawless social grace, and it certainly doesn't require a perfectly optimized, metric-driven existence.
It requires a fundamental softening. It requires the self-compassion to recognize your own humanity when you stumble. It demands the courage to set firm boundaries against the noise of a culture that wants to monetize your attention. And perhaps above all, it requires the audacity to slow down and truly, deeply appreciate an unremarkable, ordinary day.
Because you aren't a machine that needs constant upgrading. You are a human being, and the simple, quiet act of trying is, and always has been, enough.
Human beings are so often the architects of their own exhaustion. We build the tracks we run on, and we set the impossible finish lines. So I want to leave you with a final thought to examine as you go about your week.
What is it?
If you were to completely stop running that race today, if you allowed the moving finish line to just drive away over the horizon, who are you in the stillness? And are you finally ready to meet that person?
Wow, that is a question that requires a quiet room to answer. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take a long, slow breath, put your phone out of reach for a while, and enjoy the rest of your day at your own unhurried pace. Catch you next time.